There are very many F1 threads at which we need to pull at on the morning of the 16th of the 2nd, 2025. We'll talk Gerhard Berger. So too, we'll talk about Liam Lawson. We'll talk about Red Bull. We need to talk about Honda, talking about the limitations of their project, the collaboration with the Bulls that are red, and that's why they couldn't get involved with them in 2026. On the other hand, Ford in collaboration with Red Bull powertrains is going to get a bit techie. Christian Horner's talked about the limitations of that. Final topic on the docket, we'll talk about George Russell, who has talked about some of the treatment that he got at the hands of Max Verstappen fans. Is King George Russell a victim? Is he a victim really? Or is he doing what F1 drivers should do and reaching, scratching and clawing for every sinew of doable competitive advantage available? Yeah.
Mama said you're taking.
Okay, Dad'll come down in a minute, mister.
You said you're going in 10 minutes.
Alright, Dad'll come down in a minute. It's all kicking off today. Do you see this? Do you see what we endure? Alright, Dad'll come down in a minute, mister. Unbelievable. This is being professional, eh? A content creator. Go on and let's talk about it before my little man comes in and tells me that I'm taking too long again. Gerhard Berger's talked about a couple of things. He said about Liam Lawson's appointment as Red Bull racing driver alongside Maximilian Verstappen that that's better than Checo Perez, but not best. He couches that, or puts forth the supposition that Carlos Sainz Jr. was the pick to click and that Red Bull made themselves a mistake by getting one Liam Lawson, letting Carlos Sainz Jr. go to Williams. No kidding, Sherlock. But you understand the broader context around Carlos Sainz. 2015-16, Carlos Sainz Jr. was sat alongside one Maximilian Verstappen then, a young, hungry lion. Then Team Verstappen didn't like it. Jos Verstappen and Raymond Vermeulen, more than Max Verstappen, decided that it wasn't the line of least resistance to race alongside one Carlos Sainz Jr. And that would make sense. You'll have those that say, well, if you're a champion, then you need to beat all of the other drivers on the grid, whether they're in your team or not. And that's fair, but life is hard. F1 is even harder. Why would you not seek to travel the line of least resistance then? That's what Team Verstappen did then, and that's what they seek to do now. That's why we're talking about 1 billion offers in real time by dint of Lawrence Stroll's Aston Martin. So too, speaking of Aston Martin, whilst we're there, Kaylee, you guys are cracking me up. Let's talk about Aston Martin very quickly, because Adrian Newey is asking questions about Lance Stroll and whether that dude is fit for purpose, whether he can deliver upon Adrian Newey's not insubstantial last airbender technique, skills and expertise. This conversation is going to run and run. There is a rumour that Lance Stroll is considering other options. We know that he likes tennis. We know that becoming an F1 driver was his dad's dream, not his. So therefore, Adrian Newey is not going to tolerate that. He didn't sign on as a technical partner / shareholder to see Lance Stroll in his car yeeting it into the barrier every single race weekend. There is development at Aston Martin. Lest we forget, Lance Stroll's already pummeled 250 million into that factory. Another 50 million into the wind tunnel that's set to come online. That's his son, of course. Blood is thicker than water, of course. Daddy's coming, mister. Go downstairs, please. All right, go downstairs. We'll watch Gladiators in a minute. It was Valentine's Day 2 days ago, and now we're going to have a big argument. That's absolutely outrageous. But bless him. Bless him. I digress. Right. Berger also talks about Lewis Hamilton, saying that one of those two Ferrari drivers will potentially win a championship. So too could they win a Constructors, of course. Tick and tick. However, he says of Lewis Hamilton that potentially he will struggle with Charles Leclerc's pace. All and sundry, all F1 aficionados up and down the paddock acknowledge Charles Leclerc to be one of the quickest drivers in F1 history, let alone of those on the current grid. Lewis struggled against George Russell last year, so of course he will struggle against Charles Leclerc, who is a quicker driver by all accounts. Now look, I said with Nasha and Baxter on the Shakedown earlier this week that I'm concerned for Lewis Hamilton as a Sir Lewis Hamilton fan, contrary to popular opinion. I would love him to go and win nothing more than for him to go and win an unprecedented 8th World Championship. However, I feel like I am buying into the Kool-Aid. We talked about HBO 24/7 as a marketing piece per boxing Every single time Floyd Mayweather, the invincible one, Mr. 50-0, was about to fight, was about to embark upon yet another Mayweather weekend, they'd put out this docu-series 24/7 that would make you believe that Floyd Mayweather was invincible, make you disbelieve the evidence of your own eyes and ears. It was a marketing exercise, nothing more than that. Bared no resemblance whatsoever to what was going to transpire in reality. Looking back at those pictures, those Lewis Hamilton pinstripe ones, Godfather, Marlon Brando settings, seeing him interact with the Ferrari, the Scuderia, as if Sir Lewis Hamilton has a halo. I feel like I'm buying into the mythos that is Sir Lewis. I'm believing again. He's making believers out of skeptics, and I'm just wary that I need to pump the brakes. That the reality as far as the challenge facing Sir Lewis is very different from the marketing proposition, because it's very easy to buy into what you are seeing. It's very easy to buy into the pathetic fallacy that Scuderia Ferrari are selling. Lest we forget, seven windows open, one closed door with the red flag, the Ferrari red flag atop of it. I'm pumping the brakes. Full stop, new paragraph. I know, Miss RS, I'm telling you, it's all chaos over here at the moment. Sometimes it is what it is. There is a family that one needs to take care of sometimes. Let's talk about Honda limitations with the project. Watanabe, head of HRC, Honda, what does that stand for? Honda Racing Corporation, I think. He's spoken about the reasons why they couldn't interact with Red Bull in 2026, saying that they would need to take control over everything. Remember, in 2026, the rules and regs spec are as follows. 50% of the power of the 2026 cars are going to come from electric sources, the other 50% from traditional internal combustion units. What Honda wanted to do is oversee that project entire, whereas Red Bull wanted to do half of it, the internal combustion portion, and delegate out the electric portion to Honda. F1 doesn't work like that. Can't do the old siloed working. Mercedes campaigns over the last 3 years have fallen at the altar of siloed working. Adrian Newey told her that you want to build these things in tandem, understand the dotted line between your aero map and your suspension and your combustion unit. All of those matter, right? Ride height, etc., etc. Honda weren't about to embark upon a failed, doomed project, and so that's why they can't work together. On the other side of the fence, Christian Horner's talked about his concerns with Ford. He says that they're barking at the right tree, that they're progressing along, and I don't know what everybody's concerned about. However, read between the lines, and Christian Horner says as follows, that the only problem with that project is that they're lacking in experience. No kidding, Sherlock. Of course you're lacking in experience. F1 is a zero-sum game, and there is durable competitive advantage in experience. Therefore, Mercedes and Ferrari, if word on the F1 curb is to be believed, are leaps and bounds ahead of the likes of Red Bull in conjunction with Ford powertrains as we head into 2025. They have themselves 12 months. Oh, and by the way, Max Verstappen has been talking again about the competition. He said about sim racing that he feels like the competition in that, when he's racing for his team Red Line, is harder than it is in F1. Roll the clip of Max Verstappen reacting to some sim racing last night.
Yes! Oh, he's going to drop so many positions.
Such a shame.
He was the stormtrooper.
Oh.
No.
He likes himself a bit of sim racing, doesn't that Maximilian Verstappen? So too last night he was reacting to the livery launch. Roll the clip.
Excited for our livery, to be honest.
Any sneak peeks? Any sort of, giveaways you can give us that no one else will have to hear? There's only us here.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I'm super excited.
Oh. Yeah. Any clues as to what colours it might be?
Red.
Yeah, and a little bit of yellow, and
Right.
maybe a little bit of blue.
Oh, yellow.
Some sort of blue, indeed. A lot of
Your
it.
skin.
Bit of carbon.
Carbon. a bit more carbon.
Carbon.
Bit
Carbon
more-
fiber.
Bit more carbon on the car.
Carbon fiber.
I'm really.
But F175 livery launch February the 18th, if memory serves. Maximilian Verstappen doesn't give a fudge. Let's touch on this very quickly as well, because I think this is important. That Max Verstappen going into 2025 says that the competition in F1 is nothing next to that in sim racing that he encounters. It's techie, isn't it? Techier than techie things, as the likes of Lando Norris and George Russell try and circle the wagons, put forth their best foot with a view to challenge four soon-to-be five-time champions, some say one Maximilian Verstappen. Feels like a bit of he's palming them off, isn't he? He's deprioritising them as far as the competition, and I think that's I don't know what the word is. Techier than techie things. Go on then, final topic on the docket this morning. George Russell has come out and he's talked about receiving some online AB in the wake of Qatar. Lest we forget, the circumstances around Qatar were as follows. There was a cheeky coming together, wasn't there, in qualifying, if I recall correctly, that George Russell was out front, Maximilian was out front. George Russell was on a warm-up lap, and George said that Maximilian Verstappen didn't do his utmost to get out of his way. Therefore, he was impeding George and warranted a penalty. They both went into the steward's room and Max was expecting some sort of camaraderie. George Russell doesn't have that in his locker, though. He's a straight shooter, talks out of both sides of his mouth, some will say. To which Max Verstappen responded as follows: I'm going to put you on your head, chap, into turn one. I don't like what you did in the steward's room. How do we know this? Well, Liam Lawson said this, that the Dutchman had dubbed George Russell a bit of a bully and a bit of a loser in response to the Qatar weekend. But he said since that they'll move on, that there will be no beef, that Max Verstappen bears no grudge, that they'll be fine as far as a driver relationship going into 2025. George Russell has said this, though, over the last 24 hours. He says that I've got to be honest, I didn't see any of it myself, but I do know that there's been a lot of criticism out there. King George Russell told Autosport magazine, I know members of my team are receiving emails from Dutch fans, but I think that's part of the sport and life, really, isn't it? George Russell continues, that's something that we accept, and you can choose to read it and let it have an emotional impact on you. Even if you laugh at the comments, then that has an impact on you. I don't know what to make of this. Chat, help me out with George. Listen, this is why people love and hate George in equal measure. More hate him. He continues. So I just have this view and mentality that even with the positive comments, does it actually make me drive faster? Probably not. And there are more negative than positive most of the time. So I really try and avoid it. Stephen, you're a legend. Thank you for becoming the latest and greatest elated peddler. You guys supporting the channel each and every single time, to which I am grateful ad infinitum. Go on, let's deal with George. Final topic on the docket as we round third base. I don't know what to make of him. On one hand, I just think he's an F1 driver looking to... He just wants 25 points. Nothing more or less, and he'll do anything, not dissimilar to Max, he'll do anything to get that. Lest we forget Christian Horner on Drive to Survive saying if you really want something, shout out to Ginger Spice, then you would do anything to try and get that thing. And I can't hate that, but Lewis Hamilton fans have been hating that dude for the longest time because he wouldn't wipe Sir Lewis Hamilton's bottom for him. But he's an F1 driver and he applies this across the board, right? Whether it's Lewis or Max or Charles, he cares not. He wants to win, and in a zero-sum game, we cannot both do that. Around this stuff, around Dutch fans, Maximilian Verstappen fans sending in some cheeky mail. Listen, we'll never condone that, but it is to be expected when you have a Max Verstappen with a fan base that will go to bat for him at each and every single juncture. I cannot wait. It was inevitable, says Stephen. It's techie. Curious George. Oh no, people do not like him, do they? There is something about George that rubs people up the wrong way. I get it. I understand it. But I will say this about George Russell in closing. He's an F1 driver. Nothing more simple or complicated than that. He wants himself 25 points every single race. Give him a car and he'll be competing over the course of 24 races for a championship. That's just George. Don't believe me? Go and have a word with Jack Aitken. Have a look at the maneuver that George Russell put up that dude's inside. He is a killer. All the dive bombing talents of a Maximilian Verstappen in his pomp. And I say all that to say this: 2025 is around the corner. Next week will be key for dates. Feb 18th will be the livery launch. We'll try and stream that live. The following week, you've got 26th, 27th, 28th will be testing. It's going to get techier than techie things. All eyes on McLaren, all eyes on Red Bull to see whether they've incorporated the all-important flexi-wing. But that is the battleground upon which the 2025 season will be won and lost. I can't wait. You guys are legends. I'm going to go and deal with a crying baby for a little bit. I'll see you a bit later on, 8 p.m. British Standard Time. We will be talking again about all things F1, pulling at all things F1 centric, all of the pertinent threads as per usual. Legends, I'll catch you later on. Between now and then, what are we doing here?